is Digivation Network.
Hello and welcome to Digivation Network. I am Prince Lee Momodu. Technology keeps evolving, affecting every facet of our lives. Today we'll be shining the spotlight on relationships. How exactly do technology impact our relationship with our significant other? We had a virtual sit-down with one of the world's topmost relationship experts, Dr. Gilda Carle, to break down the impacts of technology on relationships. Check it out.
This is Digivation Network.
So, as we all know, technology has affected all aspects of our lives, and in most cases, it's for the best, except in one, which is relationships. Well, different research and studies have shown that technology tends to have a negative impact on relationship. And the question we want to ask now is how and why. And on today's show, I have with me an author, a TV host, and most especially a relationship expert, the one and only Dr. Gilda Carle. Welcome to the show, Dr. Gilda.
Thank you so much for interviewing me on this. This is a very big topic and near and dear to my heart because people think that they are married to their telephones. And I have had to counsel couples who have gone to sleep. One person goes to sleep with the phone. And that's the last person, it's not really a person, but that's the last connection that person has for the day.
Whoa.
It's like three people are in the relationship. Him, her, and the telephone. And so many couples come to me and say, all she does or all he does is sit like this, and talk to the phone. And you know, without eye contact, there's no listening. Without listening, your partner feels you don't care. So a lot of tension is created and a lot of people split apart over the stupid telephone, their cell phones.
So what do you have to say about couples? What advice do you give to couples who, out of curiosity or suspicion, want to check on their partner's phone?
Okay, that brings up the biggest issue that we have in relationships, trust. So a lot of couples give the partner their passwords because they feel they have nothing to hide. A lot of other couples do not. And somebody's password is near and dear to their heart. They could be married for 25 years and it doesn't make a difference. If they feel that they want to keep their password to themselves, well, there's a lot of suspicion that goes on, and particularly today. All of a sudden, you know, somebody walks into the room and she sees her husband on his computer. And she says, honey, and all of a sudden he slams the computer closed. What does that suggest? You know, you start to wonder, what is he trying to hide here?
All right.
So there's a lot of tension. And I tell the couples who I counsel, look, you're going to have to make a decision. If you're going to want to be in a situation of trust, you're going to have to share more. Now, it may not be your passwords. It may be lots of other things, but the password seems to be the most sacrosanct issue that goes on. Why wouldn't somebody share the password if they're really living together and loving together, sharing kids and house and expenses? This is the last holdout, it seems. And the question is why? So when I counsel people, and I counsel people all over the world, you're in Africa, I'm in the United States, and it doesn't matter. It's the same issues there and here and everywhere we are. We have cell phones that have almost replaced our mates. And so I tell people when they're starting out, if they're going out on dates, turn off your cell phone. Agree with the other person, I'm going to turn my cell phone off now. And if the person says, well, I'm expecting a very important call, and the calls keep coming and coming and coming, that person is emotionally distant. And the question is, do you want to be with somebody who can't be close to you, who is emotionally distant? You know, it raises a lot of eyebrows. I have written a lot of books. Here, I'll show you all the books that I have written. Can you see?
Oh, I can see them.
Yeah, I have written a lot on this topic, and well, this topic and other topics, but the issue of trust is so very important. I mean, that's the basis for any long-lasting relationship. If you don't have it, you're not going to have a long and happy relationship, whether you're married or just dating or just living together, however you're setting that up.
Well, of course, we know we can't do without technology. It has become part of our lives. So within the household, what advice do you give to couple? Do you tell them that at certain times they shouldn't use their phones, or in certain place of the house? What advice do you give to couples in relationship with having their phones at home?
Well, right now, the world has gone through a lockdown and isolation, and with the pandemic and COVID, and everybody is one roof and lots of people under that roof. And if you're used to just picking up the phone when you want, if you're used to just getting onto your computer and doing all the things that you're doing, something has got to change, because everybody needs to compromise a little bit. The interesting thing that I find in relationships is two people meet, they fall in love, they get together, and they think, oh, we're going to live happily ever after. They do not change their behaviors. So nobody has even thought about compromising. They just figure, well, all we'll do is get a marriage license and we'll be married and we'll live happily ever after, without that communication about how are we going to live like this together? How are we going to get along? In the olden days, when I was single, I used to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And he may say, well, I want to go out with the guys. I want to go to ball games. I want to do all these things. And she says, but I want you to be home with me, honey. And he says, wait a minute. What did they think? They are getting married, or they have gotten married, and everything is going to remain the same? The answer is no. When you are embarking on a marriage or on any kind of relationship, you have to understand you will have to give up some things, but you're going to get back a whole lot more. Now, you have to determine if you're holding on for dear life to the things that you thought were so important to you, or if you're ready to compromise and give. You know, I wrote one book called, I'll show you the book. This book, for young women, don't lie on your back for a guy who doesn't have yours. In other words, if you are going to give something up, the other person has to give something up. And people have become so self-involved and self-serving that they don't recognize that they have to have their partner's back. And that's very, very disturbing when they don't have their partner's back. So, and that's a bone of major contention in our society, throughout the world, I'm finding. And I counsel people from all over, and it's the same issues everywhere. You mean I have to give something up? I thought you get married and you have a forever sex partner, and that's the way it is. Well, good luck, because you're not thinking clearly.
All right, thank you very much. But of course, they can't be all bad. There have to be some upsides to technology and relationships. Are there any upsides you can tell us about of technology and relationships in the past?
Oh, you know what? I think technology is absolutely phenomenal. I think that if you are looking for a mate, if you're single, and if you're looking for a mate who has certain qualities that you may not even have pinpointed yet, you ask him a question, let's say, and he says, gee, I don't know that answer. Let's find out. And he goes to his phone. Well, what does that tell you? You're learning a lot about him, that he is a curious guy, that he's looking to go the extra step to find out information, to please you because you're curious about something. This guy is willing to bend over backwards and go out of his way for you. So that's a phenomenon that I don't think we've ever talked about really, but that shows a lot. If, however, the guy turns to you and he says, gee, I don't know, and he just changes the subject, do you want a guy like that who is not terribly curious, who is not involved in all these different things that technology has brought to us? Is he just in his own world, sitting by himself and totally isolated? So the way somebody responds to your questions and to your own curiosity determine how or whether he is a good partner for you. And since we do have technology today, it is phenomenal, the information that we can get just through a click. And the technology is fabulous, but people have to understand it will never replace a human being and a human being's heart and soul and body next to you in a bed. So that if the last contact you have is with your cell phone or your computer and not your mate may be asking for equal time. And sometimes, and I guide people to ask questions like this in a safe way, not to say, you did this and you did this. I'm very much against people pointing fingers and saying, you, because when you say you did this, the person has nowhere to go but to defend himself. And you don't want to put your mate in that kind of a situation. But instead, communication is the most beautiful thing you can have in a relationship. And while technology is phenomenal, it also needs to be discussed. Like when I go home, when I go to sleep, what am I going to do now? How are we going to have sleeping patterns? How are we going to communicate? Is the technology going to be a third party with whom you're cheating? You see, that's the thing. And when you say there are three people in this marriage, you, me, and your cell phone, and I don't like that too much. Now, how can you say that nicely so your honey can understand, uh-oh, I better do something about this if I want to keep this fabulous woman or fabulous man?
Oh, that's very interesting. Very informative. I want to thank you very much again.
I could go on and on and on for
Oh.
hours on this topic. It's phenomenal. I have to tell you something
All
also,
right.
Prince. I wrote a book all about you.
Oh,
It's
about me?
Don't Bet on the Prince.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is worldwide. It is known all around the world. It was published in many, many different languages. And when you
I should get a free copy of the book.
I don't have, how am I going to get it to you?
We're going to discuss that.
It's on Amazon.
All right, okay, I'll get it.
If you lived here, I would say, sure, I'll send it to you. But but I when I saw your name, I said, oh, that is so funny. I must share with him that I wrote this book, Don't Bet on the Prince.
Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you'll be with us again on Digivation.
I would love to do this again.
Well, that was it from the wonderful and amazing Dr. Gilda Carle. Hope you learned a thing or two, or perhaps more. That is it for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Digivation Network, and catch us on AIT every Thursday, 5 p.m. It's bye from now. Till we meet again, stay blessed.